On Sunday night, the rally that went to the Eureka Police Permit, that Chief Watson, is the one that said, hey, listen, let's address the crowd. Let's address the people that are coming to the police department, and just me and you, and we can talk to them if they're willing to listen to us. And I thought that was a great idea. So I stood side by side with Chief Watson, and we were able to listen and to hear, and so that's, whether it's inspiring or not, that's what our job is. And so I was proud to stand by and to listen, but also offer my words, and what was said there too as far as Black Lives Matter, and to listen to people and what that means to them. And so what that means to me is that, there are a lot of hurting people here in our community, and that by saying Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that all lives don't matter. It means that we are listening to our Black community, and we understand the hurt and the pain that they're going through, and that they see something, systematic racism that's going on within the community or our country. And so it's my job to instill faith in our Black community, that we are here to serve them, and that racism, it has no room in law enforcement, has no room in our community, and that I am there to serve them and be the example of what a law enforcement officer is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a peace officer. It's supposed to be there to listen, to help, to understand, and to assist them in all that. And so I think it's very, very important that law enforcement in general has that point of view, and that we're there to support our minority community and build trust with our minority community. So over the last year, California changed the kind of use of force standard. And so there's a lot of things that we are incorporating now. There's case law in the book, but our policy essentially is that the officer has to use reasonable force. And so that has to be documented and followed up on, and to ensure that lawful force was used. Every use of force is investigated by a sergeant to make sure that the proper amount of force was used. If it's not used properly, then they look at it and they see what level of discipline needs to happen. Is this a training issue? Is this a disciplinary issue? So hold people accountable. Accountability is key in building trust in our community. So we want to make sure that continues into the future, and people understand that there's strict guidance here in our state law, in case law, of when we can use force, whether it's deadly force or force to effect arrest, overcome resistance, prevent escape. All those are reasons to use force, and we have to justify everything we do. And so I think it's important. Training is utmost important as a part of this. And so we're doing more with defensive tactics, with firearms training. That's just one aspect. Other aspects that we're using is de-escalation training, knowing how to talk to people, giving our people through the crisis intervention training. So someone who's in crisis, who has mental health issues or those kind of things, we're able to try and speak with them, to try and de-escalate them, to try and gain time and distance so we can utilize that. And I think here we're uniquely positioned within our county because we're a small county and we utilize kind of resources across the board, that we have a great relationship with our county mental health, and we have integrated our county mental health with our crisis intervention training and also with our crisis negotiations. So if there's an incident where we need to call mental health out to assist us with helping negotiate something, they're out there, they're helping with us, and they're a part of our team actually. If there's a crisis where we have to surround a place because there's someone that is armed and refusing to give up and those kind of things, we call mental health people to help us try and talk someone down. And so that's our relationship, and I think it's a good one, and we're always looking at getting better. We've done implicit bias training. We recognize that there's still barriers that need to be overcome, and so we're going to continue to go through this. Even before this happened with George Floyd, we were in talks with different groups about bringing in training, for our law enforcement officers to understand local culture. And also dealing with minority groups and having a conversation and knowing how we can work together to deal with some of these community problems and come up with community-based solutions. So all these things are really, really important, and it's something that we're committed to and something that we're going to continue to, into the foreseeable future. So we're always looking at our policy to see how we can revise it. The one thing we have done recently is we've bought a force options simulator. And so it's a simulator to simulate different things that happen to law enforcement officers, different interactions. We understand that you learn best through integrating into a situation. You learn best by dealing with something. You can read something, you can read a policy, and it's just a policy. It's just on paper. But when you have an interaction, a demonstration of a stimulus, and how you incorporate that policy into a situation, that's where you really learn. And you can demonstrate how you can talk someone down. So we have a force option simulator that we purchased. Because of COVID, we can't have the trainer come out to train our people of how to operate it. But the goal is that if the officer obeys policy, goes through de-escalation things, we could de-escalate someone that's armed with a knife and that they would drop it. If they don't de-escalate, it could escalate, and then how are they going to react to that? Are they going to deal with, a pepper spray or taser or pepper ball or, baton, or is this a deadly force situation? So those are the kind of things that our law enforcement officers are going to be able to do in the future to try and help with our de-escalation training, our crisis intervention training, and then also our use of force training. So that's key. So
follow up to the
sure.
Simulator. Can you kind of explain what exactly? Is it a digital? Is it virtual reality? What is it?
Yeah, so what you're doing here is you have a screen that's in front of you that has, it's basically like a movie screen, a wraparound movie screen that has different stimulus, and it's based upon a controller looking at the officer, seeing what he's doing, and then it's kind of like choose your own adventure, so to speak. It's like, as you start going down this road, how you start doing stuff, then the simulation changes. And then the officer's able to walk through, give commands, something happens, and then it's back and forth. And then if there is a use of force, whether it's a taser, pepper spray, that kind of stuff is documented, it's recorded, and then after the whole thing is done, the officer is pulled back, they talk about the situation, how could they have done it better, what do they think about it, if they had to use deadly force, what was the reason why, was it justified under policy, everything there. So it's about articulating what they saw, what they did, and then reviewing it from a use of force expert standpoint. It's like, hey, could you have done something better? Could you have said this, and that would help de-escalate the situation? So those are the kind of things that I think are very, very important because you learn through doing, and so I think that is something that the more and more we do these scenarios, the more opportunity they are to kind of hone their skills on this. One thing is when we have the time, right? When we have the time to de-escalate and those kind of things, we will take that time. We'll create time so we can actually try and talk someone down. There's no rush in certain circumstances, okay? There's certain times where we have to react quickly because there's a life in danger, our lives, someone else's lives may be in danger. But if there's instances where we can use time and distance, we're going to do that to try and create an area where we can de-escalate the situation. The last thing we want to do is use force. We don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to cause any harm to anyone that's in the community, and we want to safely take any situation under control and get someone the help that they need. So we recognize that, and we recognize too that, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, law enforcement officers, we deal with people's worst days every day. People are in crisis every day for one thing or another. They could be perfectly good one day, and based upon circumstances that happen to them, they've now are spiraled out of control. They have an instant mental illness or some kind of mental episode that is causing them to do something, and that we intersect it. We're the ones that get called to those situations. And so, law enforcement officers, have to deal with these situations, and we can't back down. And so we have to be able to preserve public safety, preserve that protection of that citizen that's dealing with the crisis, to try and speak to them. And let me tell you, our deputies do a great job every day doing this. A lot of the stuff goes unnoticed about how we talk someone out that was suicidal, that someone was talking like they're going to hurt someone, and we talk them down. And so that stuff is happening every day, and it's just not being advertised because it's just a part of what we do on a daily basis. So I think it's important for that public to recognize that.